obsession lately with ginger beer. Hold on a second, my speaker's not plugged in. Hopefully that audio is better. I've got this massive obsession lately with ginger beer. And I don't know where it comes from. When growing up, I hated ginger beer. I didn't like it. I thought the ginger would just burn my throat. It just wasn't good. But lately, it's like refreshing and crisp. And anyway, it's not a paid advertisement. I'm not paid by Saxby's to release ginger beer. Although Saxby's, if you want someone to, advertise and product place your products and do it regularly, you're more than welcome to reach out. Today's an interesting day. I am working from home at the moment. As many of you might know, there are bushfires that are currently going on in some parts of Sydney. And at the moment, last time I checked, there was about roughly 2,400 hectares of bushfire that's currently burning. That has, in some way, shape or form, resulted in me having to work from home today. I've just stepped out to go and get some lunch, and now I'm back ready to kick off and do a little bit more work. But I figured I wanted to do a little bit of a video at some stage during this day. Obviously, here I am. And just to go and give you guys, look, it's not even an update, because I hate this is an update video. It's not an update. I'm going to tell you when my brain's kind of sitting out lately. So maybe in the last few weeks, you'll have seen some regular posting on the YouTube channel. Then you would have seen some irregular posting on the YouTube channel. You'll see some regularity in posting across my Instagram. I'm pretty well engaged in Twitter. But when it comes to YouTube and blogging, I guess the three pillar contents, I'm just kind of a little bit all over the shop. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I haven't shared much of the thoughts with too many people. In fact, probably only one person. But what I wanted to do is take you into my mind a little bit and show you where I'm kind of at the moment. Because I've got big plans for this channel and just my online social brand in general. Some parts I wanted to share with you guys just so you can get a feel for kind of where my head's at. And often when people share stuff, it helps, one, solidify what they're thinking about, but two, may create a conversation where other people might want to give ideas and input, or in some way, shape or form, even be a part of the process. So in the last maybe, when was it? It was a couple of days ago, I went through and wrote a whole bunch of stuff in my journal. I really wanted to lay out exactly what my thought process was, really start nailing down my niche, and then look at the direction I want to go as far as a plan, look at the things that are holding me back. And the biggest thing was trying to nail what's holding me back, as well as the direction I want to go in. So one of the things that I wanted to touch on more is, and I think a lot of people probably face this in some way, shape or form. I'm sure a lot of people probably face the challenges I'm about to tell you about, especially if you're a small YouTuber, especially if you're like a small content creator. You've got like a tiny following, you're trying to build up your base in these platforms that are getting increasingly more competitive, just because it's so accessible by so many people. But one of the things that I started to jot down was what's holding me back. And the biggest thing that I could come up with was just straight up fear. And when I wrote down the word fear, I said, I asked myself the question of what? What's holding me back from jumping all in and giving it fully 100 on this whole social platform? Where do I stand? What's holding me back? Where do I want to go with it? What am I afraid of? If I take that step. And I think I came up with 4 things. And the first one was, I have a fear of committing and then not following through. I hate starting something and not finishing it. To me, starting something and not finishing it is like failing anyway. It's like giving up. And I like to have control over everything I'm doing at any one point in time. So, I wrote that down. And then I came up with an idea contrary to that was, well, what's the worst that could happen? And I said to myself, well, if I don't try, I'm certain to fail anyway. Number two was committing and not being able to keep up, and then having to slow down. And I like fast pace. I like to be always doing something. I don't like sitting here stagnant. If I sit here stagnant and I'm not doing anything, I get antsy, itchy, I get uncomfortable. I'm always having to do something. So the fear of like committing to it and then not being able to follow through because of time, because of work, because of life, family pressures, all these things, you know, are fears to me. Like, they're legitimate fears. And to that I said, all right, so I may need to readjust a few things, and I think that's okay. And ultimately, slower is better than nothing at all. So if I have to slow down, that's okay, as long as I'm not doing nothing at all. The third one was of committing time and then not having the time or energy to follow through. For me, like health and diet and food and you know, sleep and things like that, they play such a big part for me personally. I don't know, maybe it doesn't affect as many other people, but to me it's such a big driver about how much energy I actually have. That to me is a fear, because if I start doing everything and then I have this this fear that paralyzes me, whereas I'm not going to be able to follow through because I'm tired, I don't have the time, or something's going to come up. And then to that I said, well, I think it's actually my biggest fear, I think. And to me, I think to combat that, if I create energy through you know, eating, sleeping, and looking after myself a little bit, I'm going to create some more energy around that. Having a clear focus on the end goal is a driver for me. It kind of like helps drive me towards the end goal. And I think, like anything, if something's difficult at the start, it's going to give you some level of pain. But in my opinion, in my experience, there is always going to be some level of pain until you readjust. Like, you feel pain and then you readjust, the bar, you know, gets set a new level. You feel pain, you know, the bar gets set a new level, and you just keep chipping away until you get to this point where things become easier. So at the start, I think it's going to be a challenge, having to, you know, vlog again regularly, create video content regularly. The last time I did that was like October. Wasn't even October last year, I think it was October the year before. Time flies, where I was actually vlogging every single day. And it meant that I was vlogging and editing into like the next day, you know, I'd go to bed at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm okay with that, as long as I build the momentum, getting the result, and I can sustain it. So, and I think the other thing I'd have to do is sacrifice wasteful tasks, such as watching TV, which I don't really watch a lot of TV anyway. I only watch a little bit of Netflix, and it's specific series. Like, if it's DC comic related, like Supergirl or Krypton, like, I'm there. If they had the Flash, I'd be there, but we don't have the Flash. So I don't really have to cut out too much TV because I don't watch it all that much. The other thing would be like social scrolling. Like, literally, I mean, I'm recording on my my phone now, so I can't show you, but you know, just grabbing my other smartphone, grabbing it and just like scrolling through and just sitting there, and then by the time you realize, like, oh shit, like 2 hours has gone by and I've done nothing except scroll through Instagram at like 2 o'clock in the morning. To me, that's critical time that I can apply to something else. And then, you know, excessive sleep. Sometimes I might sleep a little bit excessively, but that's because I've wasted time doing something like just social scrolling, for example. And the other thing is, and I think a lot of people would face this, and it's kind of like a fear of, now, how am I going to look? How am I going to sound to people when they see me on the video? On, you know, not so much the podcast, because I can do that in private, but more so the video. You know, what are people going to think if I'm walking around doing a video and I'm recording things? To me, that's like a big thing, and that's with both the public, you know, the public interaction as well as family interaction. Or what's family going to think? What's the public going to think? And for me, the public doesn't really matter. In my view, and see, these things I inherently know, but I'm just not, I guess, actively living that out. But to me, the public doesn't really matter. To me, it's if the fans and the community that I build like the content, they're going to want the content. They're going to like expect me to deliver on that content, and they're going to want to see the interaction about how I interact with the world or places around me or other people, because I find interest in that. And that's the kind of people I want to attract to watching this channel. You know, if I see someone who's out in public and I see different cities that they live in, I see different places they interact, their workplace, who they associate with. I find that fascinating. I'm really interested in that. And then to me, it's, fear about family, whether or not they judge me, whether or not, which I know they won't. I've got a really supportive family, both really immediate family and then extended family. And most of the time they'll just get used to it. So those are kind of the things that I think I fear. And they're the ways I could, overcome it by just recognizing that type of stuff. So to me, it's like, it gets to the point where if I recognize all of that fear, now I've got to build the momentum so that I can keep pushing through that. This video is going right now. It's like nearly 12 minutes of recording. Hopefully I can cut back some of it, but if I don't, it's a long one. But it's important. The next thing is niches and topics. And this is something I've been battling with for a long time, about finding out what I'm really interested in, that I can consistently and creatively create content that's also engaging, that people want to actually watch, people actually listen to, people actually want to read about and consume. So I listed a few different things down. I said, in the first instance, what are my interests? For me, I'm really interested and fascinated by this whole idea of nostalgia. Looking back, retro things that you grew up with, whether it be toys, whether it be tech, whether it be, in 15 years time, this journal will form a piece of nostalgia for me, because I'll look back on it and go, oh, look how much stuff I wrote in here, and I remember recording about it. It's nostalgia. The other thing I'm interested in is DC Comics. And that's something I'm starting to get interested in a lot more as time goes on. I'm getting a little bit more, nerdier. I'm interested in maths and science, true story films. I love watching films that are based on true story. My family, martial arts. You guys know I had founded a self-defense system, or some of you might know I founded a self-defense system back in 2008, 2009 called Neurocombatives. I'm fascinated by martial arts. Even though I don't practice it like I used to, it's still got this legacy and history there for me that's so defining, I think, for a lot of the way that I've gotten to where I am now. I'm interested in astronomy. You guys may have seen me talk about my, telescope and stuff like that. I love looking at Saturn and Jupiter and the moon and looking at the stars and nebulae and clusters and all that stuff. And I think that's connected to the whole math, science, and the nerd aspect of stuff. I'm fascinated by productivity, how to increase productivity, how do I get more done? What tools can I use to help me become more productive? What workflows can I do? How can I systemize stuff? I'm interested in medicine. Obviously having a science background and working in the pharmaceutical science space, I'm interested in health and medicine and how things interact with the human body. That's a big driver for me, both alternative and traditional and scientific-based medicine. Tech, I'm interested in tech. I love tech, devices, computers, all that kind of stuff, tech. Minimalization and systemization, I think that ties back into the whole productivity, but minimalization in general, life, getting rid of things I don't need, having less clutter, but clutter where it counts. My desk at the moment is a little bit cluttered, but I like it, it's working for me. But then at the same time, I minimalize stuff. So I'm fascinated by minimalization, even in the home. I like minimal stuff, things that look clean and crisp, and it helps me just feel like I don't have so much weight on my shoulders. Camping and bushcraft and survival. I love camping. I love anything bushcraft related, getting the bush, switching tech off and just connecting with nature and trees and water and all that stuff. I'm fascinated by that and I love that. Then the last thing is, if you haven't already noticed, I'm at 15 minutes now, is talking about myself. And it's not because it's not from a narcissistic way. It's more like, I love hearing about what's going on in people's minds and how they interact with their life, and as I said, work, family, the way that they can tell that story. It's more about how I can tell the story about myself or talking about myself, as opposed to being narcissistic. So to me, I'm kind of at this crossroad now where I'm like, okay, I know where I sit as far as interests. And I've been starting conversations on Twitter, on Facebook groups, trying to engage other people and see how they did it. What are they doing? How do they create content in a similar way to this? And is there ways that I can possibly, learn from other people? I've been doing that a little bit lately. So I'm kind of at this crossroads now where I'm like, okay, I know my interests and I know what things I like to get into. How do I niche it down into like 1, 2, or 3, or maybe just 1, maybe 3 different things that I know I can put content out about. And then how do I also tie in all of my other interests in there? So I've got a really good idea that was passed on to me by my brother-in-law, which I'm going to be putting together now and really kicking off. And I kind of don't want to like leave you at the end going, well, what's it going to be? But stay tuned, because I've come up with a way now that I think I can possibly tie this together. How it will work exactly and logistically, I'm not 100% sure. But I do know that it can work, and if done well, it can position me in like 2-3 years time to have something that I can look back on and go, wow, like there's something solid and established here that I could do something with. So that's it. That's what I wanted to share with you today. A lot of blabber, a lot of talk. Hopefully I can cut some of this back. If not, I said there's a long one. I talked a long, just and that's it. So I'll leave it at that. I hope you guys are well. If anything I've said here is interesting to you, or you've got some ideas, or you've got a story that you can share that can help me maybe go about what I'm doing, if anything like this has resonated with you, let me know, because I'd love to kind of check out what you guys have done. Maybe learn from you guys, see what see if there's anything I can pick up, and maybe I can help someone else out there. So anyway, I hope everyone's well. Thank you for watching. If you want to continue seeing what I plan on doing and you want to see where this all goes, hit the subscribe button as well as the bell, because it'll give you notifications, usual stuff. And leave me a comment below if you like the video. I really appreciate it. As I said, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, I don't know what I was going to say. See you later.